Most people think aging means slowing down. But what if the real danger lies in the silent habits that steal our happiness day by day? Today, you'll uncover 5 hidden traps many elderly fall into without ever realizing it, and how to break free before it's too late. It starts subtly, like a leaf turning before autumn hits. One day you notice your morning walks are shorter, the next your laughter a little softer. For Margaret, it began the day her husband passed. She was 72, fiercely independent, always smiling, always first to show up at church socials with her famous peach cobbler. But after his funeral, something shifted. The days blurred together, her routine narrowed, and slowly she found herself on the couch more than in the garden. She said she was just tired. But tiredness wasn't the problem. It was habit, and 5 of them in particular were stealing her health and happiness faster than age ever could. The first habit isn't physical, it's emotional isolation, the quiet kind, not the loneliness you cry about, but the kind you learn to live with. Margaret stopped calling her old friend Ruth. She's probably busy, she'd tell herself. Then she skipped the church social. It's not the same without Ed. Days passed, weeks, and isolation grew roots. But here's the truth. Humans are wired for connection. The brain literally changes with social interaction. Studies show that regular connection reduces risk of dementia by over 50%. That's not a suggestion, that's a prescription. We need people the way we need oxygen. And elderly people, often overlooked, slip into the shadows of their own lives simply because they think they're bothering others by reaching out. Margaret thought that too, until her granddaughter started calling every Tuesday. At first she was surprised, then grateful. Then she began making the calls herself, and her smile returned. Real this time. The second habit is skipping movement. Not because you can't, but because you think it doesn't matter anymore. That's the lie. After 65, muscle loss accelerates, balance weakens, and bone density decreases. But it's not inevitable. A 10-minute walk daily lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease by 35%. Chair yoga, gentle stretching, even light gardening. These aren't workouts, they're life extensions. Margaret, once an avid gardener, had let the weeds take over. But when her doctor mentioned the increased risk of hip fractures from inactivity, something clicked. She set a timer for 15 minutes each morning. She began slow, watering, pruning. By the 3rd week, she was even lifting pots again. The garden didn't just bloom, so did her confidence. And that's the secret no one tells you. Movement is medicine, especially when the world expects you to slow down. The 3rd habit is toxic nostalgia. Yes, nostalgia. We all reminisce, but for some, it becomes a prison. Margaret kept saying, things were better then. It was innocent at first, a way to cope. But soon everything new seemed inferior. Her grandkids' music, noise, new tech, complicated nonsense. Every change became a threat. And here's the danger. When your mind fixates only on the past, your present withers. Studies show that older adults who embrace adaptability live longer and experience less depression. Margaret's turning point came when her great-grandson asked for help making a recipe on a tablet. Her instinct was to reject it, but she tried, awkwardly at first, but they laughed, spilled flour, and made a mess. And something happened. She didn't just engage with the recipe, she engaged with life. The tablet wasn't an enemy, it was a bridge. The 4th habit is silent resentment, toward aging, toward your body, toward the world moving on without you. It manifests as snappiness, withdrawal, or passive comments like, "Guess I'm just useless now." Margaret used to say things like that when her arthritis flared up, or when her neighbors stopped asking for her help. But resentment ages you faster than time ever could. It corrodes your spirit. Instead, gratitude, even in small doses, reverses that damage. It literally rewires the brain for joy. Margaret began a gratitude journal, something her therapist recommended. She thought it was silly, but she wrote 3 things daily: the sun on her face, her cat purring, the way her favorite tea warmed her hands. Over time, those tiny moments became anchors. And the bitterness? It melted. Not all at once, but steadily, like snow in spring. The fifth and final habit is denying purpose. Society doesn't talk enough about this. Retirement is sold as the golden years, but for many, it becomes a void. We underestimate how much purpose fuels the soul. Margaret didn't think she had much to offer anymore. "I've lived my life," she'd say, but her neighbor, a young single mom, thought otherwise. One afternoon, Margaret babysat for just an hour, then another, then weekly. Suddenly, she was part of something again. Purpose doesn't need a paycheck. It just needs presence, volunteering, mentoring, teaching a grandchild to knit, hosting a book club. These aren't hobbies, they're lifelines, and they remind us that no matter our age, we are still needed. So now ask yourself, are you or someone you love slowly slipping into these traps? Not because you're weak, but because no one told you to watch for them. Because society is too busy glorifying youth to honor aging. But aging isn't the problem. The problem is surrendering to habits that don't serve you anymore. Like Margaret, you can unlearn them. She didn't do it in a day, but she did it one small choice at a time. She started walking again, calling again, laughing again, cooking again. She wasn't trying to be young. She was choosing to be alive, fully alive. And now maybe it's your turn, or your parents', or your grandparents'. Sit beside them, share this story, then ask, what do you want to do this week that makes you feel like you again? You might be surprised at their answer. You might hear a new laugh, or see a light in their eyes you haven't seen in years. And when that happens, you'll know this wasn't just a video. It was a wake-up call. Because age isn't what steals our happiness. Habit does. But habits can be changed. And the rest of your life, it can still be the best of your life. So in the end, it's not the candles on the cake or the years in the mirror that slowly pull us away from joy. It's the quiet routines, the unnoticed choices, the slow drift into habits that feel harmless. Until one day, we realize we've lost pieces of ourselves. Not because we meant to, but because no one told us to be careful with the small things. But here's the beautiful truth. Just as habits can take something away, they can also bring it back. A single phone call can reopen the door to connection. A few steps in the garden can rebuild strength. A moment of saying yes to something new can break the spell of nostalgia. These aren't grand gestures. They're simple acts of remembering who you are. Because aging isn't a retreat. It's a return to presence, to purpose, to the things that really matter. Not the rush, not the noise, but the heartbeat of being needed, being seen, being alive in the ways that count. And maybe that's all this was, a reminder that it's not too late, that today is still yours, that someone you love might just be waiting for a sign that it's okay to bloom again. So go ahead, share this story, make the call, step outside, stir the pot, laugh out loud. Whatever makes you feel like you, start there. Because the rest of your life isn't behind you. It's still unfolding, quietly waiting for you to choose it.